नमस्कार। आज हम कोयंबतूर के ईशा फाउंडेशन में हैं और इतनी खूबसूरत, इतनी पावन फीलिंग आ रही है इस जगह पे और मैं बहुत तहे दिल से धन्यवाद करना चाहती हूँ ईशा फाउंडेशन के सभी लोगों का कि उन्होंने ये अवसर हमें दिया कि आज हम सद्गुरु के साथ यहाँ बैठे हैं और आज हम करेंगे भारत के भविष्य की बात। और सद्गुरु से अच्छा व्यक्तित्व और कौन हो सकता है जो हमें भविष्य के बारे में बताए। So, Sadhguru, thank you very much for joining us on this show. I would like to start with, the most important question, which we've been discussing in our series, that we've been the oldest civilization. And when all the other civilizations in the entire world have died down, how have we and why have we survived so far?
Well, survival, there are various aspects. To begin with, our initial few millennia of survival happened because of two geographical features. The Indian Ocean, which people had no capability to come and invade nations at that time, and the Himalayan ranges, which was also a barrier for people to come. This gave us a few millennia to evolve this civilization in a way that it's not about survival, it's about more profound and subtler dimensions of life. It is because of this, because of Himalayas and what is Indian Ocean today was called as Hindu Sagara, he and Du, we became Hindu. It's a geographical identity which is going through a lot of today's situations. But that is the first one. And the second part of it is, see, even when we were over 200, 300 political entities during our history, many kings were ruling this place. In spite of that, people from outside always recognized us as Hindustan. And even people who lived here always recognized ourselves either as Hindustan or Bharat. So why is this? Though we are different nations within a subcontinent, why we always refer to ourselves as one nation is because our political entities did not matter to us. The fundamental difference between the people of this land and the rest of the world was they were all believers. They all had the God sitting up there and telling them what to do. Here, the people and this civilization had evolved in such a way, we are not people who are looking up and listening to something. Here, always it was taught your life is your karma, that means it's your own making. Essentially, this is about human responsibility to craft their own life. It is that fundamental which made us the civilization that we have been and has allowed us to survive beyond all reasonable limits of time. Like 15,000 years, no civilization has survived, but essentially because here always people saw that our life has to be crafted from within us, from religion to responsibility. This is the future also. This is what Adiyogi stands for. Adiyogi represents this fundamental, that people have to move from what we call as religion, that is looking up to looking in. It is this one quality which made us survive.
Sadhguru, you spoke about the geographical locations, but if we talk about Greece or if we talk about Egypt, they also had, water around them. So what made Bharat unique in our survival?
As I said, because people have always been taught that life is your making, it's your karma. Because of this, we understood that these things are not raining upon you from somewhere. Whenever things happen to them from outside, they thought gods are angry with them. Here it's not like that, we knew it is our karma, we have not done something right and obviously we made corrections and that's how we have survived.
Right. Throughout these years, Sadhguru, we have come down to being, most sought after as far as technology is concerned. So what makes the youth of this country, we're a young country now, what makes the youth of the country so unique?
I wouldn't say we are the most sought after, but we could become that. The fundamental thing is this. In my experience, I'm speaking to a variety of people across the world, and what I see is, on an average, if you take common citizens in any part of the world, India has a higher level of intellect than most other nations have.
The reason being?
This is a consequence of thousands of years of culture and evolution. We call this samskara. Today, only today, now recently, modern science is recognizing this. We have always been saying this. Now they're talking about cultural learning that happens. They have made experiments that if like a mouse or a rat is given something that it likes, like a piece of cheese, and it smells some particular smell, and it goes for it and it gets electric shock. If you do this to one rat, next 7 generations of rats will not go near that piece of cheese which smells in a particular way because they understand there's going to be an electric shock. So this we called as sanskara. That means we learn, genetically we learn many things which are not just genetic affair. It is just a learning process which is stored within us, which we transmit. So these thousands of years of civilization has led us to a place where there is a certain level of natural intellect. But what we need here is now a little more organization to see that this intellect finds expression in a positive way.
So what is the future of Bharat, and where do you see Bharat in, say, about 22nd century?
You're approaching me like like I'm an astrologer or something. This is what I've been saying. We survived all these thousands of years because we saw our life is our making. We will flourish in the future only if we understand this, that our life is entirely our making. This is what karma means.
Right.
So, we have to move this nation from dogmatic religious processes which has come to us from outside to this dimension that it is our responsibility. Our life is entirely our responsibility. This one thing must be transmitted in this country, this nation, as it was in the past, we have to move it from religion to responsibility. That's where Bharat is.
That's where Bharat is.
Yes, because Bharata means you know what?
Yeah.
Bha means the bhava, that means our experience of life. Ra means the raga, the tune. This is not set by us, this is set by the creation. Tha means the thala. If you find the right thala in your life, your life becomes a dance. If you don't find the thala or the rhythm of life, then you're crushed by the same process of life. You're every day seeing this. The same forces allow one person to rise and soar. The same forces allow another person to get crushed. Simply depends on whether he found the rhythm of life or not. So this is what Bharata means. This is the most profound way to approach a nation, and it is our business, it is our duty to ensure that the future generations of this nation have this sense that we have to find our rhythm. Only then the best expression of a human being happens.
Right. So Sadhguru, you just said that our sanskar has, taken us through all these years, and that's how we see ourselves in this 22nd century also, when Bharat will survive. So on one end, if we believe this, you also talk about re-engineering.
I've never talked about re-engineering, we're talking about inner engineering.
Inner engineering.
See, this is the most fundamental dimension of being human compared to all the other creatures. A tiger is born, an elephant is born, a grasshopper is born. A tiger is not making an attempt to be a good tiger. If he just eats well, he becomes a good tiger. Everything else is fixed within himself by nature. But you may be born as a human baby, whether you grow up into a good human being or a great human being or a terrible human being is all left to you. So, nature has left this responsibility in our hands. This is what human means, that our life is in our hands. For all the other creatures, everything is set. So when it is in your hands, you have to make it happen. It's not going to just happen. Just because you're born human, it doesn't mean you're going to become a great human being. You have to do so many things, even to be a sensible human being. isn't it?
If I say that Hindu philosophy, the Hindu DNA is the greatest and the only solution,
A Hindu doesn't have a philosophy, that's what is beautiful about us. Nobody gave us a philosophy, nobody gave us a commandment. In this culture, even when the so-called divine entities came, we only asked questions because we are a land of seekers. We are not a land of believers. Even when, let's say, Adiyogi himself came and he speaks to his beloved wife and she freaks him with 1,000,000 questions. Krishna speaks to his closest person in his life, Arjuna, that too at the edge of a battlefield. That guy asks hundreds of questions. So here nobody has ever been able to give us a commandment or a philosophy and say, this is it. We are not this is it people. We are a constantly evolving people because we are seekers, seekers of truth and liberation. Our goal is not heaven, our goal is not some absolute up there, either in the form of God or heaven. Our goal is freedom, mukti, moksha and truth or satya. Our goal is always truth and liberation, not heaven and God. So there is no philosophy here, there is no ideology here, there is no commandment here. Here we are in a constant mode of seeking. When you have to seek, the basis of seeking is this, that you have realized that you do not know. I do not know is a tremendous possibility. Only if you see I do not know, the longing to know, the seeking to know and the possibility of knowing happens. In this culture, we always identified with our ignorance, not with our knowledge, because we understand and we have realized that our knowledge, however great we think it is, compared to this cosmos, is just a minuscule. What we know is just a minuscule. So if you identify with that minuscule, you will become a minuscule. Our ignorance is boundless so we identify with our ignorance, we always identify with what we do not know, so that we are a constant expansion. This cannot happen with a fixed philosophy or a commandment or an ideology.
but if you say we feel minuscule, if we feel small, we have also been made to feel small throughout the history that we've read.
Oh, well, we didn't handle the conquest well. When handful of bandits, maybe a few hundred bandits came, they didn't come to conquer this land, they just come to loot and run away. But then they saw that people were so docile and welcoming, they became emperors. Bandits became emperors. So that's our history, that's okay, but we have survived that.
So we've always been very accepting of people, of other…
Absolutely, because this is not a nation where we see a stranger as enemy, first kill him and then ask him questions. We are not that kind of culture. When somebody from outside came, we thought it's very interesting and we welcomed them because they're different from us and we loved that. We liked variety. This is why if you travel 50 kilometers within the state, I'm saying, every 50 kilometers you travel, at least that much. Even 10, 15 kilometers if you travel, people look different, speak different, same language spoken differently, eat differently, dress differently, everything different. Every village has a god of their own, all right?
That's right.
So, this variety evolved simply because we liked variety. So when new people came, we welcomed them, but they thought this is our weakness and they took advantage of that. That is past now.
So are we secular then, should we say?
See, that word is not so meaningful to our nation, we are just a wide open culture. And being wide open and absolutely accepting of everything, because we don't even think there is an issue with that.
Right.
Because in our own families, if there are 5 people are worshipping 5 different gods and doing 5 different mantras, doing 5 different kinds of things, and one guy refuses to do anything like me so we never had any issue with these things. It's only now these things are being built up because the rest of the world understands you must either be with us or you're against us. This has never been our way.
Right. So, Sadhguru, also in today's day and time, everyone keeps abusing two things the most, and that's religion and politics. But can a society really survive in the absence of these two pillars?
I don't know what you mean by abuse.
The bashing, there's regular bashing happening.
Yes, unfortunately, the word politics has become a dirty word. A politician, irrespective of who he or she is, has become dirty you don't even have to individually look at them. Oh, politician means he's finished.
Yeah.
This is a very wrong way to look at it. What this means is, we are such irresponsible people that we will hand over this nation to scoundrels and say, oh, they're scoundrels, they're scoundrels. No, we are the scoundrels. If you have handed over the nation to scoundrels and we think it's okay and it's gossip time, we are the scoundrels, there's no question about that. So this has to change. Politics means, or politician means, somebody who's involved in making policies for the well-being of this nation. So one who makes policies for this nation, if you think he has to be corrupt, well, there's something wrong with us. That means we have not understood what is democracy. We do not understand it's one of us who could become the leader tomorrow morning. We think… because I think still we're in the times of monarchy, we think they're appointed by somebody or they were born to somebody. No, this is our job to see what kind of leaders we have. If we have wrong kind of leaders, it's obviously our responsibility.
But we've always, I mean, we speak about Chanakya, who's probably the greatest politician. And then in today's time, why do we hate politicians so much? If on one hand, we've always revered their policies.
Not really. Even I think Chanakya was hated by many people. When you try to take hard decisions for a nation, a whole lot of people will crib and cry about it, because they've gotten used to a certain kind of living. Right now in this country, there's a huge thing going on about paying taxes. This is a hangover from the British era, where the local district officers were referred to as collectors. Unfortunately, we have still kept that name. We should change that name, because collectors, these people were called collectors because their only job was to fleece the people, fleece the people and collect taxes. They were collecting taxes like 50%, sometimes in some places during wartime and all that, 100% tax from the agricultural communities. So, always people were seeing how to dodge the tax, and one who managed to successfully dodge the tax was a hero in the village. We are still in that mode, we don't still seem to have understood that this is our nation. Nation is not just a piece of land. It has to be built in the minds and hearts of people. That is where I think we've been lacking, that post-1947, immediately after independence, when there was such a big emotion, we should have built this strongly in our citizenry, in people's minds and hearts, that this is our nation. Only we can make it happen. Nobody is going to destroy it, nobody is going to make it. It is we who can make it, it is we who can destroy it. This should have been instilled in us. I don't think it was done very strongly. That is why still people are identified with their religions, with their caste, with their creed, with their families, more strongly than their identity with the nation. So, this should have been done then. At least now we should do it gently, because times have changed, it is not the same. But at that time it could have been done very strongly, because everybody was feeling strongly about it. Now it has to be done in a different way. And the only way to make people adhere to nationhood, the only way people will want to be part of that nation is to make it prosperous and make it worth living there. That's the only way.
But then how is the corruption going to get out of our system? The more prosperous we become, the more greedy we'll become.
See, if we remain corrupt, we will not become prosperous. That's for sure.
That's true.
So, for this generation, we have a fantastic tool to fix corruption, this technology. So that process is going on, it may take some more time. largely corruption will be out of our lives, I believe, in another 10 to 15 years' time. Maybe at high places, to get some advantages, somebody may have some corruption, but day-to-day corruption that ordinary citizenry has to yield to corruption to do small things in their life will go away. One thing, once a large phase of digitization happens and daily transactions happen more on technology than with people, if this one thing happens, day-to-day corruption will be largely eliminated. I believe in 10 years' time it should happen most… to a large extent.
There is also a belief, Sadhguru, that in a country like India, where there are probably no adequate wages for a lot of our, smaller government officers, corruption runs like a parallel economy. It's like, somebody who takes a bribe from someone can actually keep their kitchen going, but a mere salary from the government won't keep it going.
Well, then let us legalize pickpocket, let's legalize dacoity, let's legalize robbery, because that keeps a lot of kitchens going too.
That's true.
And anyway, in a whole lot of government offices, there is no corruption. Corruption means on the sly, under the table, you do something. Now it's not like that, they're demanding. If you don't give, they will beat you, actually. So this is dacoity anyway, it is no more corruption. It's moved to that already.
But isn't there corruption all over the world in politics? Will there be a time when it'll get eliminated completely?
That's what I said.
Or it's just utopia?
See, at certain level of deal-making, there may be some adjustments here and there. I'm not trying to condone that. All I'm saying is, there is a certain element of human greed and things which individuals have to fix within themselves. No law can fix it, I'm saying. No law can 100% fix that. It is you and me who have to decide, I will not be corrupt. But when certain deals are being made and things, people take advantage of it, such things happen because people have their needs and stuff. It is only by individual will that we can stop that kind of corruption. But the day-to-day corruption, if you want to get your birth certificate, there is corruption. If you want to get death certificate, there's corruption. If somebody dear to you is dead, to get their physical body, there is corruption. This will go because once you use technology and make it everything transparent, this corruption will go. That will relieve the common citizen in the country from corruption. At high places it'll be there, that has to be checked in so many different ways. There's no one magic fix for that because no nation has managed to fix that absolutely.
No nation has been able to do that yet.
That can only happen with the spiritual process. Today I can very proudly say I have thousands of people. If you show them a mountain of gold, they won't be interested. You need to create such people.
Right. So, Sadhguru, everyone keeps, somehow spirituality and Hindu religion go hand in hand. And a lot of people, when they talk about spirituality around the world, they only link it with our religion. How correct is that?
See, as I said earlier, this has been a land of seeking. Seeking cannot be a religion. Seeking is a spiritual process. If you believe something, the definition of a religion generally in most people's mind is, I belong to this religion means I believe in these 5 things or 10 things that have been told to me. Belief essentially means you're assuming something that you do not know. Belief essentially means that you have become arrogant to think that you know the beginning and the end of the world. The beginning and end of creation you know because you know one story. So, we are not in that kind of mode. This culture has never been in that kind of mode. Here people are confused all the time and it's a very good thing. When it comes to larger aspects of life, you must come to this much. What I know, I know. What I do not know, I do not know. This means you're a spiritual person. You may not be identified, you may not be wearing a label that I am spiritual, but if you recognize most of creation you do not know, you have become spiritual because once you see this, the longing to know will naturally is sprouting in your heart. You cannot stop it. Once you truly realize, I do not know the nature of my own existence and the nature of the larger existence, how can you stop human mind from seeking? It will seek. So you're trying to settle that with some concrete belief system. That's not been our way. So definitely this is a spiritual culture which we're trying to make it into a hardcore religion, it'll not work. Because how will you come to a hardcore religion when you don't have commandments to tell you, this is it? There is no this is it in this country.
I always thought that I'm very far from spirituality because there were a lot of things which I couldn't figure out, but I'm beginning to feel better about myself right now.
If you admit to yourself that no matter what I do, I don't know how to figure out where do I come from, where do I go, even such a simple thing, I do not know. That means your intelligence will naturally start seeking. If the pain of ignorance bothers you, you have become spiritual.
Great. So Sadhguru, coming back to the topic of our episode, the future. We are talking to a lot of children who have done, some great innovations, some children who are child prodigies. Is there something you would like to say to all the kids who do not have that spark in them as a child prodigy, or they don't know if they're going to invent something when they grow up, but who are just normal, innocent children who will shape the future of this world? What would you like to tell them?
See, there is no normal human being anywhere. Every human being knows within themselves, or every human being within themselves feel in some way they are unique and special in their own way. So every human being is born with a certain genius. The question is only in the process of life as to how it unfolds. Will it provide the necessary ambience for that genius to blossom? See, right now here you see arecanut and coconut, wonderful growth of these trees. They're doing very well here. If you take the same tree and put it on top of the mountain, it'll just wilt away.
That's true.
So it needs this level of ambience. There's another kind of tree, if you bring it here, it won't flourish. So now we have factories. Children are going to factory work at the age of 4 or 5. These are called I'm calling them factories, most people call them schools. They're factories to manufacture a certain kind of people. This is a plan that people had with industrialization, where things got streamlined into assembly lines. They thought people also should go through assembly lines to become a certain kind of product. So, you're putting your children to factory work at the age of 6, then how will you even think of, a blossoming individual genius? Because individual genius is in so many different ways, it's not in a particular way. So as a part of this, I've been pushing for this, and fortunately government has announced now, the central government has announced that I've been for it all the time. Since whatever, 97, 98, various people have been pushing. But now the central government announced a few months ago that only 50% of the time at school will be for academics. Another 50% will be sport, art, music, other skills.
Wonderful.
So this is a great possibility, but still, India being India, our resources being what it is and our populations being what it is, decision has been made, but to provide that atmosphere, it's going to take a lot of time. You must see our schools, how they are done. Children are… any kind of child comes, they will blossom into something wonderful because people are involved. The teachers are not trained teachers in the usual sense, they're intelligent people. For every 4.5 children, we have one adult monitoring them, making sure the best happens out of them, okay?
That's a wonderful ratio.
Yes, if you are only dedicated to the child, if you think future generation is something that we have to create in a fantastic way, then we have to invest ourselves.
True.
We think we give birth and we throw them in the school and our job is done. Well, even at the age of 2 only they're giving them a cell phone or iPad, so the child is busy with all the colors that are happening there, driving them crazy with something or the other. If we are not interested in really getting involved in the growth of the child, then it's best not to have it, because human species is not an endangered species. If you were a tiger, I would say please reproduce. You're a human being, we are plenty of us.
Yeah.
If everybody does not reproduce, nothing is going to happen, it's going to be great, all right? But producing quality human beings is very important. When I say quality, I'm not talking about a specific kind of human being. Every human being, we must strive to create them in such a way that they are full-fledged for what they are. This is what all life is about. A coconut tree is trying to be a full-fledged coconut tree, a mango tree is trying to be a full-fledged mango tree. Bird, animal, insect, everybody is trying to be a full-fledged life of what they are. A grasshopper is not trying to be a tiger. It's a very good thing that he has no such ambitions.
Because he's not confused like us.
No. So, it must become a full-fledged human being, not that you should be like me or I should be like somebody, that's not the point.
Right.
Every life has to blossom. For this you need a different kind of atmosphere. I hope without the economic strength, we cannot do this. You will only end up factories where you'll throw your children and hope they will become some way to survive in the world. Education has to shift from survival to blossoming of the individual.
Correct.
I really beseech all the parents who… the previous generation, when we were growing up, our parents were only concerned, how will you survive, how will you survive in this world?
Yeah.
Those of you who achieved survival, who have come to a reasonable level of economic well-being, do not harass your children about survival. It's important, how will you blossom? But still there's a large segment of population struggling for survival. Unfortunately, for them, this generation is all about survival. It may take one more generation for them to get there. But those of you who've gotten there have to do this, that you have to invest your children as to how they will blossom, not how they will survive.
True. So is it then correct to say, with the present education system that we have, that we are growing intelligent with each passing day? We are, to the level of achieving… getting artificial intelligence within our day-to-day lives, but we are becoming less and less creative?
The problem with our system of education, which is essentially Her Majesty's service, is we are given to mistake, or people are mistaking memory and information for intelligence. So what artificial intelligence means is that what you studied in 25 years and got a PhD, a small little gadget will know before you, well before you,
yeah.
all right? So, you gathering memory and thinking you are very intelligent will go away, and it's great time for humanity, because true intelligence will blossom. What kind of a human being you are will become more important than what is the stuff you got in your head. Your scholarship, your PhD, your so-called education that you are looking down on everybody simply because you read a book, whether it's of religion or science, all this will go away. What can you do with your life will be the most important thing once the machines are doing all this. For this you must see, already there's an example. There was a time when whichever man had the biggest muscle, he was the biggest man in the town, because everything was muscle. That's why women were nothing, all right? There were times when women were not really of any significance, because it was all about the brawn. It's a technology which leveled that. Now, if you have big muscles, we will give you some menial job, we are not going to make you the boss.
Right.
There was a time if you had big muscles, you became a boss. So similarly, if you have a lot of information in your head, we will put you with one of those little gadgets, you will be nothing in future, and that's great time.
So Sadhguru, you decided to start with the children when you started with your river program. So a lot of school-going children are now becoming aware of it, about the water crisis.
Millions of them. The fantastic thing, when we did the artwork and all that, we had art competitions in various thousands of schools, and the way the children responded is incredible, and also it's tragic. Many children, when we asked them to write, make a artwork of the river, They just made sand beds because they have never seen a river with water flowing.
Oh dear.
Actually,
It's so
one little
sad.
girl, an 8-year-old girl in somewhere outside Mumbai, in Navi Mumbai, somewhere when I went there, this 8-year-old girl gave a extempore speech in Marathi about how I'm telling all kinds of untruth. That I floated down a river and I enjoyed the river like this. When I was a child, I said, where is that kind of a river? I've never seen one. She gave one 10-minute speech, full passionate extempore speech as to how this is not possible. Sadhguru is saying he did all this. How can you float down sand?
Oh my God,
So,
that's so sad. Okay, one last question as a
we are
parent.
committed to change that for at least the next generation that's coming.
Yes, and you've been saying that there'll be only 15% water left per person.
What the amount of water we had in 1947 per capita, today we have only 21% of that. By 2030, it's expected we will have only 15%. So, you are getting water in bottles, you never got alarmed. When you start having your shower with a bottle, I hope you'll get the point.
Oh my God. Well, one last question, Sadhguru. As a parent, the same question again. How do I ensure that my children are not just intelligent but are also creative?
See, creation has already been done. It is not necessary, every one of us should be thinking, what can I create, what can I create? It's not necessary. Creation has been done in a most magnificent way. Most people have not paid enough attention. See, if you say wildlife, people will think tiger, lion, elephant. They don't think grasshopper, cricket, worm, insect. But actually if you go into the forest, when I have lived for weeks on end in the forest by myself, I saw tigers, I saw elephants, I saw all kinds of animals, buffalo, variety of things. But the biggest impression that is made upon you is the insects.
Yeah.
They'll make sure that you know they are there.
Right.
By the time, after 3 weeks of staying in a South Indian jungle, if you come out, your whole body will be swollen from head to toe and you'll be scratching all over the place. They make sure they linger on in your body. Tigers don't do that, unless they get you. So, people have not paid attention, they are going by information in their head. If you say a tree, they don't see a tree in their mind. Tree is just a word, a tiger is just a word, everything is just a word. This we call as scholarship and education, unfortunately. If you take that away and if you make your children experience things more, pay attention, doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter something is small or big, who the hell are you to decide something is small or big? If you pay enough attention to an ant, you will see whoever created this ant has paid as much attention to the making of an ant as it paid to you. Ant has not been created with less attention than yourself, isn't it? Then why the hell do you decide ant needs less attention than yourself or anybody like you? So, you have to bring this into children that they are unprejudiced attention. After that, they can decide whether they want to marry an ant or a human being, that's up to them. But when it comes to attention, your attention should not be prejudiced, it must be unbridled. Only then you will explode. Otherwise, you become constipated because you never pay attention to anything. You think by reading a book it'll happen, no. You have to pay attention because human attention can open any door in the universe. If your attention is intense enough and sustained, there is no door in the universe which will not open to a human being. This is what has to come into your child. I want to create something, I want to create something, what? You want to leave a footprint on the planet? Those who are very interested in leaving footprints on the planet, they shall never fly.
That's a wonderful thought.
Isn't
It's a great thought. Okay, one question before I let you go today. What are those things that's going to shape the future of India? The 3 things, 5 things that you would like to name.
Things that we must ensure. Sovereignty of the nation. We've already been ravaged by partition, no more such things should happen, we have to tighten that. The soil is the most serious thing. India's soil is under great threat. A soil can be kept rich and fertile and alive. I mean alive, because what you think is me right now, this is just soil. Most people don't get it till you bury them. Only when you bury them, they understand we are soil. No, as you sit here, you are soil. If the soil is not rich and alive, this will not be rich and alive. Keeping the soil is very important. If you keep the soil, water is naturally taken care of. Well, once you've taken care of the soil, the product of the soil is all the creatures who are living here, including ourselves. Well, the other creatures don't need education. If you just leave them alone, they will do well. Only human being needs education, so India's education has to be seriously looked at, because we are destroying all our skills. Now we are doing skill development, all right, but we are destroying all our skills because of so-called compulsory education. I know a whole lot of people get at me, oh, he doesn't believe in compulsory education, he wants to employ children. That's not the point. At least parents must be given the liberty. If a farmer wants to take his son or daughter to the farm so that he understands what is farming and learn the process of that, a carpenter wants to take his children to his shop and teach them what is carpentry, a weaver, especially a weaver, if he doesn't take his child to the loom, believe me, your weaving is over. Right now we have launched a movement called Save the Weave. For the first time I'm doing a fashion show in New York City the coming week.
Oh, really?
Yes, we have taken 120 distinct weaves from India to be presented to the American top designers.
Wonderful.
Because there is no nation on the planet which has the kind of weaves that we have. Who do you think can make things like this anywhere in the world?
That's
It's all made by hand. There is no hand which can make it anywhere in the world except the Indian hand, all right? So if these hands have to develop, they will not happen after you finished your high school and at the age of 18 you try to learn, it'll not come. So it has to be relaxed, that's the idea of making only 50% academic and rest of the time other skills have to come. So we have to bring back the things that we have been good at. Because India's economy at one time, when we were the largest economy on the planet, our main source was the spices, and at one point the textiles overtook the spices. Whole of Europe was clothed by us, all right, till the British decided to destroy it completely between 1800 and 1860. We have to bring that back, because nobody will have to even talk about jobs if you just bring back natural fiber and weaving back into the thing. And there was a time when economies of the world were such, they would not wear natural fiber and they went for cheap, synthetic fiber because economics was a big thing. Now people have come to a place where they would like to wear what is good for them and what is good for the ecology. Ecologically, one of the greatest disasters that's quietly happening, which everybody wants to shoot the plastic bag. Yes, it must be, but it is the polyfiber which is getting into the soil, into the water, into the very food chain and into our bodies. It's gotten into everything. One important thing is we must bring back agriculture as a lucrative process. We are doing a major movement here now, because what is lacking in agriculture is scale. Average land holding is just little over 2 acres. At that level, they cannot prosper. So we are trying to bring scale without compromising land ownership by the way of irrigation investments and marketing process. So we have done these farmers producers organizations which are growing in the country, but there is not enough scale there. We are trying to bring 10 to 25,000 farmers together so that they operate as one. The cooperatives were done, they did succeed, but the problem there was all kinds of people entered the cooperatives and became corrupt. But now the important thing in farmers producers organizations is that only farmers of the local area can be part of it, no politician or no somebody else can ever enter that space. It's only run by the farmers, and we got a tax benefit for them, there was a tax. That means farmers cannot get together and operate. What is lacking is scale. Farmers must experience the power of scale. If that one thing happens, farming has to become lucrative because this is a land, especially here in southern India, there is over 12,000 years of agricultural history. The same land we've been plowing, growing and eating from this same land. But in one generation, slowly we're turning it into sand because land has to be rich means the leaves from the trees and the animal waste has to go. Trees are gone long time ago and animals are all getting foreign visas and they're going out dead, of course, but they're going. So if animals and trees are gone, you can't keep the land rich. We have to bring back laws where if you own land, you must own animals. This has to be done, otherwise land will be destroyed. This is very important. India's soil is one of the top priorities because this is a soil. If we take care of it, we have a latitudinal spread from Kanyakumari to Himalayan ranges. Just about anything you want in the world we can grow. We have that kind of latitude, we have that kind of climate, and above all, we have skilled people. There's over 60% of the population who knows how to make mud into food, that's not a small thing. But you go and make a survey, you ask any farmer, how many of them want their children to become farmers? It's well below 5%.
That's true.
So in another 20 years' time, you will lose the ability to grow food with such a huge population. If you lose the skill to grow your own food, what will happen to you? So, food security has to come means we have to make sure farming must become one of the most lucrative processes. That's when people will invest their children in farming, otherwise they're all going elsewhere. These are the things that need to happen in this country. And of course, you're talking about corruption, but I feel instead of trying to give them teachings and beatings and everything, because if you want to jail everybody who somehow yielded to corruption either by taking or giving, 90% of India's population will go to prison. So that's not the answer. We have to create systems where these things will go away. Corruption is not a crime, corruption has become a culture. So this culture has to change, means some infrastructure, technological infrastructure has to come in and pride has to be put into people that I am not an under-the-table kind of man. I am a straight kind of human being, there must be value for that in the society.
Since you spoke about skill, the families used to be the skill development centers as we call them today. Like a father would teach his son the craft, a mother would teach her daughter the craft. And there's also a saying in Hindi called halwai ka beta halwai banta hai. So if this is true, then why is the whole world against the word nepotism?
No, that is not true. Halwa making person's son will make only halwa, a thief's son will only become thief. Not necessary. Those times are gone. Because at that time there was no other influence. Today we have educational institutions, technological trainings. Halwa making man's son can become a great scientist or a engineer or a doctor, whatever else. Oh, we don't want to destroy that in the name of family traditions, that's not the point. I'm saying it is… every human being is not suited for academic education. There must be variety of offerings, so that just because you cannot understand chemistry, you're not made to feel stupid, you can do something else. He may be very good at something else, but now in a chemistry class, in a physics class, you make him feel utterly stupid. He loses his fundamental, urge to make it in the world. He thinks he's no good, he's no good. If… this is something that's happening in most, lower middle class families especially. If you don't pass 10th standard, you're finished, you better die. And they're dying, unfortunately. In this country, the last year, that 2017, over 18,000 children committed suicide. In this, over 7,600 children are below 15 years of age. 12, 13, 14, a child who must be bubbling with life, if he wants to take his own life, don't we understand we're doing something fundamentally wrong? Absolutely. Please? Absolutely. Huh? Don't we understand we're doing something fundamentally wrong with our children? Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending time with us.